Welcome back. In the rush to produce the massive amounts of critical minerals we need to fuel our future, battle lines are being drawn. The countries that have the resources aren't necessarily the ones that will win. And while Canada is trying to limit Chinese investment in its resource industry, mineral-rich Africa has invited China in for decades. Canada is late to the party, but not too late to make a change. Frank Giustra is president and CEO of Fiore Group. I want to start with maybe an obvious place, which is how we're doing. Does Canada have a critical minerals shortage today?
I think the entire planet has a critical mineral shortage today. And, I think it's important to understand how we got here, just as a bit of background, because it is a very crucial time and there is no time to waste. With the exception of China, who has been very well prepared for the last 2 decades, securing all the critical minerals it needs. The rest of the world is asleep at the switch. And they're just now starting to wake up to the fact that we're going to have a severe shortage, a severe deficit of critical minerals if we're going to attempt to reach net zero by 2050. By many accounts, we're going to need 4 times the critical minerals we are producing today by 2040. And probably anywhere between $300 and $400 billion of investment in the mining side of it to get there. And as we all know, it takes anywhere up to 10, 15 years to find and build a mine. So there is no time to waste on this.
Obviously, there's a big global story here. In Canada, we have heard all this talk, including from the minister, that we have the critical minerals, that it's a huge opportunity for us, and that we are going to focus on it. And yet, as you say, it takes a long time to put a mine into production in the best of times. This may not be the best of times. What needs to happen here to actually make Canada a critical mineral superpower? Is that even possible?
It is possible, but it's going to take some real leadership and vision. And I don't see it at the moment, okay? And here's the irony. Canada is the second largest landmass in the world, largely unexplored, with almost every critical mineral that we need exists in Canada. But we have several problems. We're starved for capital. There's no investment going into it. And there are a number of reasons for that I can get into. There's a lack of infrastructure because a lot of these deposits and potential deposits are in very remote areas. And we have a permitting problem in this country. It takes 12 to 15 years to permit a mine in Canada. Whereas in my experience, and as you know, I've financed mines all over the world, in Africa and Latin America. And in those places, you can get a mine permitted somewhere between 12 and 24 months.
Right. If you are thinking from the point of view of the investor pool of money, there are investors out there, they want to invest in this. They can see that critical minerals will support our existing technology and also some new technologies headed our way. Are you going to invest in Canada, or are you more likely to try to find a way to look at the U.S., at Australia, or even some way to partner in the African investments that are going on?
Well, I already have. And I've made most of my, probably 95% of the wealth that I've created over the last 30 years has been outside of Canada. And there's good reason for it. There's very little support for mining in this country. And we're going to lose out here. We are really going to be left behind because it's getting as I said earlier, this is becoming a national security issue for many countries. I just came back from Riyadh. I was at a conference, a metals conference in Riyadh last month. Every country on the planet was represented there, including America and the Europeans. I couldn't see Canada represented. We weren't even there. And they're dishing out. Saudi Arabia has made a decision as part of its 2030 vision, which is similar to what the Belt and Road Initiative with China, to secure as many of these critical minerals as possible to bring industry into Saudi Arabia. And they're dedicating $15 billion just to buy minority stakes in mining projects so they can get the offtake.
Right.
And again, the fact that we weren't even there was really surprising for me. But we have to solve 2 issues in this country. The pension funds that we have are not invested in the mining industry in this country. They're actually very little of their overall assets are invested in Canada. They've invested more in China than they have in our own industries here in Canada. We've lost most of our mining funds over the last 10 years. We went from $16 billion of dedicated mining funds down to less than $3 million in just 10 years. but we need investments with long-term vision. And the closest thing we have are our pension funds. And if you take a page out of the Australian pension fund book, the way they're doing it, very pragmatically, very intelligent, forward-looking.
Yep.
What they have more the pension funds in Australia have more invested in their lithium producers than our pension funds have invested in the entire mining industry in this country.
Let me just ask you, I mean, you're painting a bit of a dire picture. If the goal is for Canada to have a leading position in a whole host of critical minerals, is it possible that our government talks one story but is actually walking another one? In other words, we say we want this to happen, but we're not actually behaving as though we do.
And you just nailed it. You just hit the nail on the head. Okay, you had the mining minister come out, the federal mining minister come out and say that we want to really develop our critical minerals in this country. And then the environment minister comes out and says, we're not going to build any more roads for this. And the problem, one of the missing pieces in this is infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like the Ring of Fire in Ontario requires a major road to access. And none of it, you need a port and a road. You need more hydroelectric power in the Yukon to put the largest zinc deposit in the world into production, one of the largest copper deposits. All of these things need infrastructure. And so we need to start thinking maybe about public-private partnerships,
Yep.
using our pension fund money. We need to think about increasing our flow-through tax deductions for remote parts of Canada. There's so many things we can do. Matching funds, low interest loans, and we're not doing any of those.
Frank, so good to have you for this. Really appreciate your time.
As always, my pleasure. Thank you.
Still ahead, one key to developing our critical mineral strategy is to treat them as strategically important. Stay with us.